Now, first things first, can everybody hear me? Good. Fellows and guests, as you might imagine, this has been the first year of my presidency and it's been quite a steep learning curve. But it has also been very rewarding and immensely informative. Amongst the things that have particularly struck me are the remarkable knowledge and expertise represented by you, the Fellowship, the pride and pleasure which new fellows express when they are being admitted to the society, the commitment and industry of the staff, council, its officers and working parties. I think few fellows can be aware of just how very hard people work at Burlington House and Kelmscott Manor behind the scenes. We really, as a fellowship, should be very grateful for the amount of work that is done on our behalf. And then, of course, as I always say, the remarkable thing that always amazes me is our collections. On the screen here, I've just put two items, the first of which on the left, is it the left? Yes, it's the left. On the left is a drawing attributed by William Blake of Edward I in his coffin. And this was drawn in 1774 when his tomb was opened at Westminster Abbey. The drawing is thought to have been done by William Blake, possibly for the Society as a record. It's been loaned to the Ashmolean Museum recently for their exhibition William Blake, Apprentice and Master. And on the other side is a loan that's about to go out. It's the 15th century bronze gilt processional cross known as the Bosworth Cross, and that's going to feature at an exhibition later this year at Durham Palace Library of Durham University at an exhibition entitled Magna Carta and the Changing Face of Revolt. And I think these two items really illustrate the remarkable quality and diversity of the items in the Society's collection, and also the Society's commitment to making those items publicly accessible. Now, of course, what has also become clearer to me is the challenges which we face as a society. And I want to highlight three which seem to me to be particularly relevant at the present time. Firstly, as has already been said earlier in this meeting, as a charity, we are required to demonstrate public benefit. The Society is not a private members' club simply devoted to serving its members, the Fellows. If we are to demonstrate that we exist to serve the public interest, we do need to be more outward-facing and to engage with a wider audience than is the case at the present time. Secondly, I think it's become clear that engagement with the Fellowship might be achieved more effectively. Recent analysis by the General Secretary of the geographical spread of the Fellowship shows that almost 50% of Fellows are located in a fairly limited area. You can see, if you do the maths, 46% of Fellows are located in the east of England, London and the south east. Fellows from these areas are those most likely to use the facilities here at Burlington House, which of course means that 50% of Fellows are perhaps not as engaged with the Society as they might be. And then thirdly, third issue I wanted to raise is as we've already heard from the Treasurer, we simply do not have the funds to achieve all we wish to do, despite the excellent management of our financial affairs by the Treasurer, the Finance Committee and our staff. The Society's resources are fully stretched in maintaining current commitments. We do not have the capacity to develop or respond to opportunities, or indeed threats, as we would like, and this must be addressed if the Society is to continue to thrive. We cannot envisage a future which simply embraces the status quo. These are, of course, challenges which face many learned societies, and you may recall that in 2013, a survey of the Fellowship was undertaken to ascertain your views about how some of these challenges might be tackled. The majority of Fellows who responded were clear in their support for reform, with a view to promoting an increased understanding outside the Fellowship of our mission and of the benefits of the Society to a wider public. Since that time, Council has taken steps to consider how best to address the responses which were received, and the key document which has resulted from Council's recent deliberations is its Vision 2020 document, a draft document which sets out the Society's strategy for the next 5 years, and our Treasurer has already referred to this. At the heart of our strategy is the Society's continued commitment to its charitable objectives, to look after the collections in our care, to support research, and to communicate knowledge in order to foster public understanding and enjoyment of the past. Underpinning this is the knowledge that in doing so we need to address the particular concerns that I've just set out earlier, the need to be more outward-looking, the need to engage the Fellowship more, and the need to increase our income. I am fortunate to have been elected at the point at which we are refining and finalising the 5-year strategy and exploring how best it can be delivered. The rest of my address will describe the steps which are being taken towards achieving that, and will give in outline a sense of how Council intends the Society to look by the end of the decade. I want to start by looking at the Society's estate at Kelmscott, because in many ways current initiatives being pursued there illustrate in microcosm what Council hopes to achieve for the Society at large. It is easy to forget just what an astonishing asset the Society has at Kelmscott. The former summer home of William Morris, the estate is a remarkably well-preserved 17th century farmstead complex, encompassing 12.5 acres of land and buildings, 13 of which are listed, which include the manor, house and garden shown here, as well as an important group of historic barns, dovecot, stabling, and 5 cottages which in fact aren't shown on this drawing. For many years, the Society has struggled with the rationale for its ownership of the manor and its estate, with a small minority of individual council members asking why the Society was running a country estate at all, and how expenditure of Society resources on it could possibly be justified. I think that at last Council has reached a consensus, recognising that there is a constructive and positive way forward for the management of Kelmscott, which chimes perfectly with the Society's 5-year strategy. Presentation of the Kelmscott estate offers the potential for the Society to demonstrate in a very public way its commitment to its core values of conservation, research and dissemination. In doing this, the Society has the opportunity, of course, to engage with a much wider public than is currently achievable here at Burlington House. In the last year or so, the Society's property managers and staff have introduced a number of changes which have begun to explore how this wider engagement might be done more effectively. I just want to mention a few now. In 2014, for the first time, we had an artist in residence, Sasha Ward, who quietly brought a whole new dimension to the visitor experience, focusing on Kelmscott as a source of inspiration for design and craftsmanship. She's a specialist in stained glass. Some of you may have heard her lecture in this room when her residency came to an end. We also had an exhibition on loan from the National Portrait Gallery entitled Jane Morris and Friends at Kelmscott Manor, marking the centenary of Jane Morris's death in 1914. And we hope to have more touring exhibitions like this in the future. Another new initiative has been the offer of student internships in partnership with Oxford University. And some of you will have heard them talking at the 2014 Christmas Miscellany lecture they spoke very well actually, about the results of exciting new research into archival material held at the Manor. And this is going to help shape future interpretation of content and presentation of the site. So very valuable work done by students. The partnership with Oxford University is also being pursued in other ways. A recent course at the Oxford Side Business School included a session at Kelmscott on William Morris and authentic leadership, with presentations on William Morris as businessman and innovator. This was a tremendous success. Who would have thought, to quote one of the organisers, that the connection between Morris and US car insurers would be an obvious one? Or that wealthy American businessmen would go home raving about having been fed rabbit, prepared according to William Morris's own recipe. The tea room at Kelmscott scrubbed up very well. You will have seen from the annual review that this conscious effort to widen the offer available to visitors has resulted in a significant increase in visitor numbers, excellent visitor comment, and recognition by Cotswold Tourism with the presentation of a Gold Award in the 2014 Small Visitor Attraction for Year category. Here's our property manager, Sarah, with local MP. These small steps have given Council the confidence to develop a new approach to the presentation of the Kelmscott estate. And a small Kelmscott Manor working party has been set up to take this forward. This new approach is firmly based on the Society's commitment to conservation, research and dissemination, and draws on a conservation management plan prepared by our fellows John Maddison and Merlin Waterson, which has highlighted the significance of the site and its wider environment. At the moment, those of you who've been to Kelmscott will know that presentation largely reflects May Morris's vision of the house as a memorial to the achievements of her father. Visitors to the manor really at present gain little sense of the long history of the house or its surrounding landscape. This diagram, which looks possibly a tad intimidating and probably doesn't come out terribly well, but I will talk you through it, illustrates the framework within which Society's new vision for Kelmscott will be delivered, and describes a process moving from left to right. In the first two columns, I have to look at the screen, in the first two columns, the first one sets out the assets in the Society's ownership in that of others, which relate to Kelmscott in its widest sense. So that is at the bottom of the first box we have Kelmscott Village, the church, house and barns, all the things that were there when Morris got there. In the middle we've got collections relating to Morris's occupancy, and at the top things that have been inspired by Morris, because Morris's legacy is something we're very interested in exploring. Those who know the art of Jeremy Deller, for example, who have been to the National Portrait Gallery recently, will know that Morris's legacy is still very much alive, and this is something we want to have to explore in the future at Kelmscott. The second column looks at the research themes, and that's broadly in three boxes. Because the General Secretary and I are archaeologists, this is stratigraphy from the bottom up. Pre-Morris, Morris period in the middle, and then post-Morris at the top. And the research on the estate will be organised into these three chronological periods. The central box, entitled The Society's Research Disciplines and Expertise, is the pivotal point in our model, because this is what involves the fellowship, the fellowship. The Society is uniquely positioned to take a multidisciplinary approach to research, which will allow the potential of the Kelmscott estate to be fully explored and presented to a wider public. And this does really offer the opportunity for fellows to engage with the affairs of the Society in a very hands-on way, and is something to which I will return. The fourth box sets out the proposed means by which the product of the Society's research will be communicated to the public. So we're looking at displays, as at the moment, activities, publication, and then through partnership with other organisations. And then finally, we're thinking more about the audiences we wish to target: general visitors, specialists, and educational audiences. The intention is that once this new vision has been delivered, the site will more accurately reflect the mission of the society and do justice to the site's significance. This is a map that's going to be handed to visitors this year, which is beginning to give us a little bit more sense that then Kelmscott is simply the house and the garden. And at the end of the work we want to do, our intention is that the estate will be in good repair, reflecting Morris's promotion of the principles that underlie modern conservation practice. New research, drawing on the knowledge and expertise of the Fellowship, will enable a fuller interpretation of the house, its estate, the village and its surrounding landscape, and that as a result the site will appeal to a more diverse audience. Now, achieving this new and revitalised interpretation of the site will of course demand significant investment, and this is not the only aspect of the site which requires attention. Improvement to our visitor facilities are urgently required, as those of you who visited recently may know, as is a programme of conservation and repair. We are aware that the Society will be facing a repairs bill in the order of £1 million over the next 5 to 10 years, for which external funding will have to be found. The Kelmscott Manor Working Party, which I mentioned earlier, is now in process of putting together an application to the Heritage Lottery Fund which will encompass all three of these elements: the repair and conservation, improved visitor facilities, and refreshed and new interpretation and activities. Whatever the outcome of the application, the Society faces a significant fundraising challenge at Kelmscott. A tremendous example for this has already been set by a group of fellows led by our Vice President Philippa Glanville, our honorary curator at Kelmscott, Peter Cormack, and our fellows Martin Levy, Geoffrey Bond and a number of others, who in 2014 organised a fundraising auction which raised £39,000. And it is this money which has enabled the initial planning work. Before I leave the Society's plans for Kelmscott, I should just like to offer some reassurance. A number of fellows have observed that these plans must not in any way compromise the site's tranquility and unique atmosphere, that special feeling which May Morris memorably described as like walking into a far-off dream and becoming part of it. And those of you who've been there, I'm sure that phrase will resonate. The desire to preserve this for future generations has been central to the Working Party's deliberations and is fully understood by our potential funders. So, that brings me to consider how the Society might similarly pursue a more outward-facing agenda here at Burlington House. As I've already indicated, this has two aspects. First, to enable society to present its mission to a wider public, and second, to engage the Fellowship more fully with the affairs of the Society. And I'm going to look first at that first issue of engaging a wider public, and then I'll come on to the Fellowship. As fellows will be aware, as at Kelmscott, a number of small but significant steps have already been taken to attract a public audience to Burlington House. I'll mention a few now. The public lecture programme, this one was a recent lecture on Captain Cook's waistcoat, has gone from strength to strength, with a strong attendance and a wide range of topics, presented from the history of dress to the history of cricket, very well attended, via the archaeology of South America. Comments received from those who attend have been enthusiastic and appreciative, and this is an initiative which will be continued. In the summer of 2014, for the first time, the Society opened its doors to the public with an invitation to visit our picture collection. Portraying Our Past was a great success, attracting almost 3,000 visitors over a 6-week period and receiving excellent feedback. Next month, as I'm sure you're all aware, we are planning another public exhibition and associated lecture programme centred on our 3 copies of Magna Carta, celebrating the 800th anniversary of its sealing. And as I've already mentioned, our loans programme continues to give public access to our collections. In 2014, for example, the Society lent a number of items to a temporary exhibition at Stonehenge, which included an Inigo Jones engraving contained within the first book ever to be written about Stonehenge. It was published actually posthumously in 1655 and is thought to be the first book ever published in any language about a single prehistoric monument. In recognition of the loan, English Heritage offered fellows a private view, and this is something that I would like to see occurring in the future when we loan our items to institutions, that fellows should get the opportunity to go and celebrate our finds with the institution to whom we loan them. I think you'll see some people you know, including the General Secretary in a very fetching hat. As at Camscott, student internships were offered at Burlington House this year, and students from the universities of Aberystwyth and Sussex assisted in the recording of the Society's seals collection. They also spoke about their work at the 2014 Christmas Miscellany. We would like to increase our educational involvement here, with possible avenues being the support of PhD students and the offering of careers advice. In seeking to pursue a more outward-looking agenda, Council has become increasingly aware, and fellows who attended the meeting earlier, where we were discussing the ballots, will be aware that the existing charter and statutes could do with a bit of a refresh, no longer offering quite the necessary flexibility to allow the Society to manage its affairs as effectively as it might. Crucially, they have not in fact been updated since the introduction of the 2006 Charities Act, which made new demands on the Society. Updating has previously been undertaken on a piecemeal basis. Actually, now I think of it, there we are, there it is, 1751. Previously, we've only undertaken updating on a piecemeal basis every 10 to 15 years due to the cost of taking revisions to Privy Council. And the Society, as you perhaps learned earlier, is fortunate to have secured a Heritage Lottery Fund Transition Funding Grant, which is now enabling thorough review and revision. A review of the statutes was, in fact, you may recall, undertaken in 2012, on which the Fellowship was consulted. And the outcome of that process is informing the revision work now in progress. This has been a challenging piece of work, compounded by the fact that it was agreed at the outset that wherever possible, the original language and flavour of the documents should not be compromised. So you can see it might be a challenge. Council's very grateful to the small working party of fellows who've undertaken this work on its behalf, led by our Treasurer, Stephen Johnson. Council's now had the opportunity to comment on the revised Charter and Statutes, and once amendments have been made, the proposed versions will be sent to the Privy Council Office for approval. Circulation of the revised Charter and Statute to the full Fellowship, which is required in accordance with our existing statutes, will take place in the late summer, following which an extraordinary meeting of the Fellowship will be held in the autumn with a view to finalising the content. The transition funding from the Heritage Lottery Fund has also supported two further pieces of work. One of these has been directed at exploring how audiences at Burlington House might be increased and diversified. It's all very well saying we want more people through the door, but we need to understand who they should be and what sort of audience we need to make offers to in Burlington House. The other at how our financial planning might be strengthened to ensure that society has a sustainable future. The Society's 5-year strategy is predicated on the response and enthusiasm we've received for our public-facing events, such as portraying our past in our public lectures, but until now we've really had no coherent strategy that takes a considered view of who our audiences might actually be and whether the events and activities we envisage will be the most effective way of engaging with them. And Council has also been very mindful of the fact that unless our activities and plans are financially sustainable, there's little point in pursuing them. Public-facing initiatives and events will require external funding, and we will need to identify new partners and funding opportunities. So the HLF Transition Grant is currently allowing the Society to explore these issues through the preparation of audience development and business plans, and you will be hearing more about all this work in the coming year. In pursuing a more outward-looking agenda, there is no intention that the Society should lose its identity or sense of tradition. This is not about dumbing down. Our core purpose has always been a commitment to the highest standards in conservation, research and scholarship, and this commitment must continue to inform everything we do, including our public engagement programme. It's important that the outside world understands that this is the cornerstone on which the Society is built. There are a number of different ways in which the Society upholds and promotes these values for the benefit of both the public and the fellowship, and I'll mention just a few here. Our grants for conservation and research continue to support a wide range of projects. The William and Jane Morris Fund awarded 19 grants, amounting to approximately 28,000 to conservation projects over the last year, including this restoration of this hatchery from a church in Derbyshire, rather lovely before and after picture, based on the Society's grant. 21 grants amounting to approximately 85,000 were awarded for research and travel, including the 3-year Tristan Hilgarth Award to David Roberts, who's working on the survey of a rich Roman shrine landscape in Wiltshire. And this project's been carried out in association with a portable antiquities scheme and tied into doctoral research. In the future, I should like to see the Society's research projects being on a scale to make a more visible and significant contribution to research. Our respected publication series has this year, and you'll probably all be aware of this now because they're sitting on the table outside, which is wonderful, had 3 notable titles added to its list. And we will be celebrating the publication of all 3 after this meeting. Each, in its own way, is a remarkable achievement. Looking ahead, the Society intends to increase access to our publications and is developing a digital publication strategy centred on open access journals and monographs. The library and collections represent a truly remarkable and unique resource, but they exist in a world where the use of libraries in research practice is changing. Looking forward, the Library 5-year strategic plan sets out the Society's vision to make the library more accessible, both physically and through digital means. The objective is to increase its value as a resource both for the fellowship and to encourage a new community of users, including young researchers. The Society also promotes its core values through responding to public policy consultations. Those of you who keep an eye on our website will know that this year, for example, views have been expressed on the division of English heritage into 2 organisations and on the Redesdale inquiry on local authority archaeological provision. Council has just approved a Statement of Values document, which in the future will be the first point of reference for all responses made to consultations. It's quite a remarkable achievement, really. It's a distillation produced by a small working party of fellows led by Stephanie Moser, which outlines the core values that the Society supports and advocates in relation to its overall mission and strategy. The statement's just been posted on the website, and I do hope that you will take the opportunity to read it. I'm very grateful to the working party who so efficiently and nobly rose to the challenge of producing a page setting out so clearly what our core values are. Looking forward, Council would like the Society to be in a position to be proactive rather than reactive, to produce its own statements on current issues rather than simply respond to others. Opinions expressed by a number of organisations recently rather concerningly indicate that in some quarters the Society is no longer a voice which is regarded as entirely relevant. This is something Council is keen to address. As a long-established and independent voice in the sector, we should have an influential part to play in shaping public policy and stimulating debate. One of the principal ways in which standards in conservation and research are fostered, of course, is through the work of the Fellowship, with the Society providing support through the lecture and seminar programme and access to the library and collections. The knowledge and expertise of our Fellowship, which I referred to at the beginning, is unquestionably the Society's greatest asset. And as with other assets, the Society cares for the Fellowship in order that you too can contribute to public benefit. I raised at the outset the need for greater engagement between the Society and the Fellowship, and I think it has become clear to us that this might be done more efficiently and effectively, both for the benefit of the Fellowship and for the wider benefit of the Society. The Fellowship is a key resource, and the Society's 5-year strategy sees that resource being employed more fully in the future. I have already indicated how the Society plans to engage fellows at Kelmscott, and this is something we'd like to see developed elsewhere. Fellows, of course, do already contribute to Society initiatives, and such involvements will be critical to the delivery of the 5-year strategy. Our hard-working staff can only do so much. One of the ways which Council is currently considering as a means for promoting Fellowship engagement is to develop a more regional structure. Outside London, Fellows currently meet, as some of you will be aware, regularly in our UK regional groups in York, Wales and the South West. And looking forward, statutory reform will in time allow regional groups to be properly constituted and become a formal part of the Society's governance arrangements. By supporting a larger network of regional groups, it's hoped that more fellows will be encouraged to engage with the affairs of the Society, both through attending local Society events and contributing to new public initiatives. As well as actively engaging more of our fellows, Council also intends to explore broadening our fellowship base by introducing a tiered fellowship structure. Again, this is something which will be pursued following statutory reform. A tiered structure would allow the Society to diversify the fellowship's current demographic profile in terms of age range, gender and ethnicity, while preserving its special status. We do need to engage and encourage new young professionals. For example, at the present time, only 10% of fellows are under 50. If the Society is to thrive, we need to do much more to foster and enthuse the fellows of the future. So in summary, by 2020, the Society's ambition is to have achieved the following. We want to expand our current public engagement through continuing with our public lectures, for putting on more public exhibitions, to increasing our offer at Kelmscott, as I have already set out, and by achieving a higher profile in public policy and debate, as I've said, by trying to become perhaps more proactive rather than reactive. We want to increase our educational involvement. I've shown that one of the audiences we'll be targeting at Kelmscott is an educational audience, and supporting heritage professionals of the future at Burlington House. We want to increase our commitment to research and dissemination by increasing the profile and recognition that our grant programme has. As I've already discussed, by increasing use of the library through making it more accessible both physically and digitally, and by moving into open access publishing. And as I've already just discussed, by broadening our fellowship base. Before I finish, I just want to say something briefly about resources. Following on from what our Treasurer said earlier, it's frequently assumed by both fellows and external bodies that the Society is in a very comfortable state financially. Despite the hard work of fellows and staff, unfortunately this is not the case. Our funds do indeed support our existing activities, although as fellows who attended the annual presentation of the statutory report and accounts in November will be aware, this is only achieved at the expense of an underlying structural deficit of approximately £100,000 per year. Over the next few years, our financial situation, as we've heard, will be challenged further, with forecast increases in staff, national insurance and pension costs, and rises anticipated in repairs, running costs and rent. In partnership with the other courtyard societies, our society is currently seeking to resolve issues relating to the rent and lease at Burlington House. Our occupancy here is fundamental to the profile and character of our society, and every effort is being made to resolve the current situation with speed and efficiency. It is clear that we will have to take steps to increase our income significantly if we're to continue to thrive and deliver the programme which Council wishes to see developed. The Development Office will continue to work hard to extract external funders and to investigate ways to build up our reserves. And by implementing the programme which I've outlined, Council intends that the Society will broaden its base of support in the heritage sector, improve its public profile, deliver greater public benefit, and as a result will be in a position to make a better case to support our work and improve our finances. And as I've shown, the role of the Fellowship will be crucial in these endeavours. By disseminating information about the Society and its collections, the Fellowship has the opportunity to convey the importance of the past, increase public awareness of the Society, and thereby increase support for the Society's wider activities and objectives. So to conclude, despite many positives, the Society of Antiquaries is not playing the part it should in contemporary British archaeology. Only a drastic reconsideration of many traditions which have seemed immutable can enable it to do so. What is necessary is to face up to the fact that reform is indeed needed. Now these aren't my words, and they weren't those of Cruikshank either in 1812, but they were the words of Vice President Professor Stuart Piggott in 1957. I believe that they're still entirely apposite. I look forward to working with the Fellowship to address the challenges which lie ahead. Thank you.